Welcome to Compass Points, the weekly podcast for CompassKnox.com. CompassKnox.com is your best source for news and politics in Knoxville and Knox County. You can find their daily in-depth coverage and subscribe at CompassKnox.com.
Welcome to Compass Points, a podcast about Knoxville and Knox County government, politics, business, education, and just about anything else that strikes our fancy. I am Scott Barker, the editor of Compass, and Compass is a subscription-based website and newsletter where we report on all these topics and more. You can find us at CompassKnox.com. Joined today, as always, by Compass co-founder Jesse Mayshark. How's it going today, Jesse?
Going pretty well. I have been, as a former resident of New York City, even though I'm not like the world's biggest basketball fan or anything, I have been enjoying watching from a distance the trajectory of this Knicks team. And of course, by the time people hear this episode, we're recording on Friday, the Knicks may have already won the NBA championship or not, but it's been fun to watch so far, including that completely insane comeback game last night, which I was just saying I turned off because it was so sad by the third quarter. But boy, what a comeback. So go Knicks.
All right. And we're also joined by producer extraordinaire, Lord Seth Barber. Lord Seth, what say you about the weather forecast, the 3-day-old weather?
The weather is beautiful here on Friday. I agree with that. And I will go on the other side and go to the other major sport tournament going on right now. I've been watching the hockey tournament between the Carolina Hurricanes and the Vegas Golden Knights. And last night was the only game that wasn't a nail-biter of the, I guess that was Game 5. Yeah, it was Game 5 last night. It's been a very, very tight series, and if you're into hockey, this is one of the better finals I've recalled in the last couple of years. I don't have a particular fan base of either one of these teams, but good hockey's good hockey, and I'll take it when I get it, especially when it's on TV because it's easier. It's hard to get. Hockey is not as well televised as basketball and some of the other major sports around here, so I'm excited about that.
Well, and also the world's biggest sporting event.
That's right.
Kicked off.
Just started Thursday.
Pun intended. Kicked off. Yeah.
Yeah. The World Cup.
Yeah, we got U.S. Speaking of 3-day-old events, the U.S. first game is this evening, Friday, and so we'll have the first result, as they say in the football world, for the U.S. team.
Go USMNT.
Yep. It's a mouthful.
And soccer should be one of those things that Americans can agree on. Who they?
You'd think in this tournament, yes.
You would think, and I don't think very many people will be going around going, go France, go Belgium.
You never know. There's always that one in every crowd.
And there's a tendency to
Uruguay
to want to root for a team that might actually win. That might spur some people's decisions on who they're supporting per se. But it's I find this one interesting with the 3 host country thing that's going on this year. It's gonna be fun the logistics of this one are gonna be interesting. It's a massive host continent.
Yeah, I mean playing all the way from Mexico up into Vancouver.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course our University of Tennessee, Tennessee's footprints are all over it.
Right, the turf grass.
Yes, the turf grass at every World Cup venue was developed by researchers at UT and Michigan State University. So, and we reported on that a couple of times, and we'll see. We'll see how that turf holds up.
Yeah.
Hopefully it does. Especially the stuff, the ones that are inside the Dome Stadium. Those are they had and one of the things is, it doesn't sound particularly hard. You're sitting there going, it's just grass. With what it was is they wanted FIFA, the World Cup organization, wanted consistency in the turf at every stadium. So the turf that they developed had to be able to be the same in Vancouver and Mexico City and in any dome stadium.
Right, these very different conditions.
Yeah, and but it had to be the same. I mean, it had to play the same in every location. So that was a huge challenge, and so we'll see how it goes. So we don't usually do sports, but this is kind of a sports show because we got.
Well, it's a busy. I mean, this is kind of a quiet time of year for a lot of things, but it is very busy for sports right now.
Yeah, we got a couple of sports things we're going to be talking about in a minute. First of all, we'll be talking about new restaurants that are opening up at the at Covenant Health Park, the baseball and soccer stadium in the old city. Another installment of the CareCuts saga came to an end last week as well. Another sports related event or topic is UT Chancellor Donde Plowman has become the spokesperson for the SEC. Apparently, and she spoke out about the state of college sports. We also ran a story earlier in the week. It's not a news event; it's kind of a non-event in that homicides are so down so far. We only had 3 as we're speaking now. Only had 3 homicides in the city of Knoxville so far this year, and we'll be talking about the local efforts that have gone into reducing violent crime here. But we're going to kick off talking about the sheriff's race here in Knox County. The state Republican Party, specifically the executive committee, picked our sheriff for us.
Yeah,
that was, we had more than 44,000 people voted in the primary, and in the Republican primary, there was no Democrat running, so the winner of the Republican primary was going to be the sheriff, essentially, barring something extraordinary. And 44,000 people, more than 44,000 voted, and then and Brent Gibson won. He's a former SWAT team commander there. He's retired and from the sheriff's office, and he ran for the post this year. He won with 44% of the vote, almost a majority, but a solid plurality.
Yeah, in a 4-person field,
4-person race. Then it turned out that 8 days after the primary, 2 of those candidates that finished back in the pack, David Amber, who finished second, and former Sheriff Jimmy J.J. Jones, who finished fourth, were indicted. Long investigation. They and 9 others were indicted, part of a conspiracy to use drug fund money for personal gain. And so they were indicted. Then the other candidate, Mike Davis, who finished third, decided to challenge the outcome. He basically argued that voters were uninformed about these pending indictments, and if they had been informed, they would have voted differently. Well, so he challenged the outcome, which you challenge it to the party because it's a primary, not a general election. And so they have. It's funny, the executive committee is also the primary board, and so the primary board, executive committee, met to decide who was going to be the sheriff. There were 66 positions in the Republican Party for on the executive committee, and so now a few of the seats are empty right now. But that executive committee, there's no provision in the Republican bylaws for any kind of special election or special primary or anything else. So the appeal had to go to them, and so they had a virtual meeting, mostly virtual. The candidates were there at the Republican headquarters in Nashville, but everybody else zoomed in to the meeting, and it was kind of an interesting thing. They only had 3 choices. They could just say, okay, the election results stand, bring Gibson as the Republican nominee. Or they could pick one of the other candidates to be the sheriff, which, with 2 of them being indicted, the only other one would have been Davis. Or they could just vacate the results, and there would be no Republican candidate. And since there would be no Democratic candidates, there would be no one to vote for party-wise in the general election. But, I think, going into it, you didn't know exactly what was going to go on. Davis's attorney, he was Lance Baker, spoke first, and he actually advocated for vacating the results entirely. No Republican candidate. His reasoning was that by doing that, both Gibson and Davis could register as write-in candidates. And in Tennessee, you have to be a registered write-in candidate for your votes to count. Mickey Mouse does not get official votes in Tennessee.
Right. You can write in Mickey Mouse, and it'll actually show up somewhere in the tallies of the election commission, but it doesn't get counted.
Yeah, it's not officially counted. So, but if you are a registered write-in candidate, it can be. And so that was, I thought that was kind of a novel.
Maybe Davis's attorney might have thought that it was a little too much of a leap to ask them to throw out the results and also name Davis, who had finished 3rd in a 4-person field.
He addressed that. He said, this wouldn't be fair to Gibson.
Right.
It wouldn't be fair to Davis.
Because, again, no allegations of any wrongdoing by Gibson. Gibson is not tainted by anything to do with these indictments or anything.
No. And, and one of the things is that he really hit home on the unfairness of people not knowing that these indictments were coming, and a lot of people were taken by surprise. Although, in Jones's case, you kind of knew that he was under investigation because
he had been implicated already.
Yeah, he'd been implicated in a federal investigation of one of the co-conspirators, obviously, that person did a plea deal and had pledged to cooperate with the federal authorities. So you knew that since Jones was just implicated in his plea deal, but that there was cooperation going on, so you kind of knew that Jones was at risk. I'm not sure about Amburn, although it turns out that the format that they had there, people from the public could speak, and several people spoke out and said everybody knew that was going on. Most of these people had something to do with the sheriff's office, but everybody knew what was going on, according to them.
That people were under
investigation. Common knowledge among some people that this was going to happen.
I was surprised that it was never brought up. I don't remember hearing anything on it in any of the campaign cycle stuff, like any of the debates that they had. You would think from a Davis or Gibson standpoint, maybe just kind of throwing it out there to just for vote's sake, just say, hey, just so you guys know, these two are being looked at and may be indicted. So if you vote for them, they may not be able to actually take the seat because they may be in jail. I don't know. Maybe I'm too low on the whole politics gets automatically dirty all the time thing. But I was really surprised there at least even from a third party standpoint, some commentator didn't throw it out there because of their political interest in it, that it was never really a topic until the actual indictments came out. I thought that was a little surprising in that.
Well, apparently it was at one Republican gathering,
right?
From what somebody said during this
that it had been talked about, raised somewhere to some degree.
But you're right. In fact, that was one of the things that several people pointed out. Several Knox County people pointed out is that it was a very clean campaign from that standpoint. Former Sheriff Tim Hutchison, who is on the Republican Executive Committee, in fact, talked about how clean it was and how smooth the election was. And of course, he had all four people worked for him at some point in their careers. So, but anyway, when Gibson's turn to speak, he was very, short, and he was given 6 minutes. I think he spoke one, and basically it was respect the will of the people. Yeah, respect the vote.
Which was the obvious, strongest argument to make. And Gibson, who knows what kinds of conversations go on or what people hear sort of through back channels or whatever. But Gibson's approach to me looked like, they always say when you're winning, just shut up.
Yeah.
So Gibson probably was anticipating a favorable outcome, and so just kind of stood up and said, look, we had an election. I won. Let's just respect that.
Yeah. And so it was, and the discussion among the people from the general public was, like I said, it was split. I mean, there were several who said, "Hey, I didn't know. I'm from Knox County. I didn't know this was going on, and I would not have voted the way I voted if I had known." There were several people who said that, but there were also people who said, like I mentioned earlier, everybody knew what was going on. So, and it was interesting. You only had 1 minute to speak, if you remember the public and wanted to weigh in. But anyway, that was done. But when it came time for the executive committee members to debate or to talk about the vote, it was pretty apparent very quickly that they were going to reject the appeal. And Hutchison spoke. He was the first one to speak, and and he basically said the same thing that Gibson said. It was a smooth election. It was a clean election, and people voted and respect it. And there were variations of that from just about everybody. There were a couple who said, "Yeah, it would have been better if this hadn't happened," and it's a shame that the voters didn't know, but we're still gonna go with with what they said. It's kind of interesting too, because one of the interesting things, these executive committee members, there's 2 from each state senate district. So there are 33 state senate districts, 66 possible members. Like I said, there were a few who weren't there. Knox County has 5 members. We've got 3. 2 districts are completely in Knox County. We've got another district that we share with Anderson County. Hutchison is basically the Knox County representative there for that district. Terry Frank, the county mayor in Anderson County is the other one. But Knox County has 4 others, so there are five people who are on the primary board or on the executive committee. 2 of them did. These are Knox County representatives. 2 didn't show up. Kent Morrell and Karen Brown, who are the 7th district representatives, did not log in. I don't know if they tried and failed to log in, because there were quite a few people who were technologically challenged, apparently, who had difficulties logging in and voting and things like that. But Hutchison, Jane Chedister, and Brian Hornback did show up. They are the other 3 Knox County representatives on the executive committee. And obviously, this was a unanimous vote. Obviously, they've all voted for Gibson. So basically, this appeal, they all rejected the appeal. There's no other recourse here unless, I guess Davis could. No, I don't think he could. I don't think he can run as a write-in candidate if he's lost in the election. I think
right. I think there is a prohibition on the loser of a primary then running as a certified write-in candidate. I think the theory maybe was that if they disqualified the primary altogether, then he would have been freed up to run as a write-in, and Gibson would have as well. But so could anybody else. And I think somebody in the conversation made the point that, as it stands right now, you've got Brent Gibson on the August ballot and no Democrat at all. Mm-hmm. If you throw out the primary and there are no candidates for either party, then sure, Gibson and Davis could become certified write-in candidates, but so could maybe a Democrat. And what if you got a couple other Republicans also jumping in as write-in candidates, and then you get a Democrat who wins 22% of the write-in votes, ends up with the most votes? Like, you're creating extremely unlikely, but it's like you've got a door that is completely closed to the opposition party. And by doing what Davis was advocating for, they would have been at least maybe cracking that door a little bit.
Yeah, and there was one member who brought that up, and who was we don't want to leave the door open. Let's go ahead and and close it off, and so that was this. Could have been very disruptive, ends up status quo, just like it was if there had not been a challenge to the outcome. Gibson will be the Republican nominee on the ballot. There will not be anyone else on the ballot. Now there could be a write-in, can be a write-in person. The deadline is the 17th. So if anybody listening out there wants to run for Knox County Sheriff
and have your votes count.
And have your votes count, you can do that, and
has the appropriate prerequisites that the sheriff requires,
right?
Because that is the only that was one of the most fascinating things to me back in the day when I started trying to pay attention to all this stuff. Other than age and residency, sheriff's office is the only one that has, the DA's office, I guess, has extra requirements. Right. You have to have some qualifications as far as like professional licensure or something like that. Yeah. Is the 2 lawyers and the sheriff. So just the caveat of, if you want to run for sheriff and you have
certified
the appropriate capabilities. But I don't know. So that's fun. I always thought that was an interesting little subtext on our elections here.
Well, I think the thing that, first of all, they had a very clear winner of the primary. Gibson just won decisively, especially if you knock out the 2 indicted candidates and just compare Gibson's votes to Davis's votes. I mean, it's not even close.
Is it 24 percentage points?
Right. Yeah. And we're in this interesting era where the Republican supermajority in our state legislature has shown itself more than willing, happy, enthusiastic to disenfranchise certain kinds of voters, which are basically Democratic voters, black voters in Memphis, as they just did, completely eviscerating their congressional district. So it's not that the Republican Party is opposed to disenfranchising voters. They do not want to disenfranchise Republican voters.
Their own voters.
And so when you've got 44,000 Republicans in Knox County who voted in this election for their own party to turn around and say, you know what, never mind.
Yeah.
Like I don't think that would go over very well with most local Republicans.
No, I wouldn't think so either. And but now the Republican Party doesn't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
So now one thing that was interesting when I was taking a look at this back before the meeting, I was brushing up on the bylaws of the Republican Party and all that stuff because I really don't pay attention to that kind of stuff very often. But I was struck by one of these ironies of our times. As we all know, everybody in Tennessee knows, the Tennessee Republicans have, like the Trump administration, have eviscerated diversity, equity, and inclusion policies and structures all across the state, particularly at state universities, and they're whenever somebody is they accuse people of being either African Americans or women or other people of other nationalities of being DEI hires, and that's a dirty word, if you're a DEI hire.
Right. And the way they define DEI hires is anybody who's not a white man.
Yeah, and
that's how you know they're undeserving. They're not a white man.
The implication is they do not deserve their position, and but there is one institution that they have not gone after, and that is the Republican Party of Tennessee, because the executive committee, like I said, there are two members in each district. One of them has to be female, and one of them has to be male.
You mean they have a quota?
They have a quota. It's not only a DEI program where you bend over backwards to try to recruit minority candidates or whatever. No, this is an actual quota system. So the Republican Party apparatus itself it's not only GOP, it's DEI. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but
I'm going to guess, not knowing the background or history of that requirement, but it may have something to do with the fact that in a lot of local Republican parties, it's women who do a lot of the work, who are like the backbone of a lot of local party, administrating and so forth. And so at some point, probably somebody said, "Hey, if we're doing all this work, we need to have a voice too."
Yeah, and it's one of those things where I only know a couple of the executive committee members. Jane Chittister here in Knoxville. You couldn't find a more capable person than Jane Chittister, but when if you apply the logic that the Republican Party has applied to other institutions, you would think that they would be suspicious that she might not be. I don't know, but she's highly capable. She's probably the most capable of all of them that I know.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but anyway, just thought that was kind of an interesting thing. I mean, interesting is the word that I put on it. There are other words that you could put on it, but we'll see.
Isn't it ironic, like Alanis Morissette?
Yes. And anyway, so we'll move on to the general election in August with that, and see how many courtesy votes Brent Gibson gets. Anyway, one of the other happenings of the week. It wasn't really a happening. This is just one of those stories that we looked into just because it was interesting when we first started looking at it. There was and Knoxville Mayor India Kincannon mentioned this in her State of the City address. For the first, at that point, there were no homicides at all in the city of Knoxville. The first one wasn't recorded until
in 2026.
In 2026, wasn't recorded until April. And May 7th was the date of the first one. There have only been 3 to date. Now, of course, we're doing this on Friday, and we drop it on Sunday. There could be one over the weekend, but there have only been 3. One of them was basically an accidental thing where the people were allegedly drunk, high, and playing with guns. Great combination, and gun accidentally discharged and killed one of the people involved. Another was in a domestic situation, now one of the things is nationally, crime is, especially violent crime, is way down. There was a huge spike during the first 2 years of COVID, and Knoxville saw that painfully then, where there were at one point, it was 2021, I believe, or the first few months of 2021, the murder rate in Knoxville was comparable to Chicago's.
Yeah.
Now that evened out, and and Chicago is far, way, way, way higher than Knoxville by the end of the year. But the first of the year of that was incredible, and in really the last 5 years, Knoxville had seen an average of 5 homicides in the first 3 months of the year, where they had 0 this year. So, but anyway, the crime rate nationally has plummeted, more so in Knoxville than most places, but it's down, and there are all kinds of reasons why. You read about the experts. There are all kinds of reasons, but one thing they do talk about is that, as a possible factor, some of them make it a bigger deal than others, is local policing and changes that have been made there. And you could say that Knoxville fits that mold. One of the things that I sat down and talked to Kincannon, talked to Paul Noel, talked to LaKenya Middlebrook, who runs the Office of Community Safety and Empowerment, about their approach. And basically, the administration has taken this comprehensive, holistic approach, that it's not just fighting crime. It is fighting crime. They'll say, "Don't get us wrong, we fight the crime," but also community engagement, community assistance, really, and bringing the personal touch to it. Kincannon talked about some of the books that she had read that really had an influence on her. One of them, Thomas Abt, who we've talked about before, who has this kind of triage approach to crime. Is you stop people, you stop the crime, and then only then do you look at trying to hit the root causes, as it were. Poverty is chief among them. But Kincannon said that one of her criteria when she was looking for a police chief in 2022 to replace Eve Thomas was she wanted someone who would regain the trust of the community. That had been fractured. What little of it existed. There were, people would have information about crimes and not tell the police because they didn't trust the police, or they didn't, or they were scared that there would be retaliation, whatever it was. But that was something that rebuilding that trust is something that she emphasized a great deal, and she said that she found it in Noel when she hired Chief Noel and talked to him about their policing and some of the things that they've been doing. He's made a lot of changes in the police department. One of the things is that community policing. He wants officers, if they're in their vehicles and they're at an intersection, there's somebody standing on the corner, roll your window down and say hi. Talk to them. And they go out and walk through communities a lot. And try to just meet people and talk to them that way. It was funny. He said the first time they did that, he and some other officers went in East Knoxville near 5 Points just to walk around and say hi to people, not patrolling or anything, just saying hi. And he said he got a call from Councilwoman Gwen McKenzie asking me if there was a raid going on. And, that's how unusual that was. And but they do that in various places in the city. They go to community meetings, which they'd already done a lot of that, neighborhood meetings, but doing a lot more of that, making it real intentional about them getting out and about and getting into the community like that. They also have relied on data quite a bit about where crimes are occurring and when they are likely to occur. And also they've identified bad guys, essentially identified people who are the ones who are actually committing the crimes, and focusing on them. And so that's the kind of the person-based thing. And because, quite frankly, the people who are most likely to commit a gun crime or be killed by a gun are young adults. They're adults 25 to 32 years old who've already been
males. We should say
males. Yes, males who have already been had encounters with the criminal justice system on multiple occasions before, so they know the people who are that age group who have been who've been in trouble with the law before, and they identify those people and look at them when crimes, they're suspects, when crimes occur. So, and then they also, have, looked at place-based policing, and we've talked about this before. They call it Project TLC, which is kind of a sappy title for the program, but where they have used their data to identify high crime areas, and they basically do all those things with enhanced patrols and people community engagement and that sort of thing, kind of that on steroids. It's they really are much more intense in doing that. They will they bring in other departments too. Now, remember, I was saying this was a holistic thing. It's not just the police department. They bring in codes enforcement. They tow abandoned vehicles. They clean up empty lots. They improve lighting in some areas. They went in. There was one intersection that Kenny Middlebrook talked to me about. And her office is the one that kind of coordinates the Project TLC. But in Montgomery Village, there was an intersection that the neighbors thought was, the residents there thought was really dangerous. And Montgomery Village is one of the TLC zones. So they went in. They actually did some improvements, did some traffic calming right through there, and made the intersection safer. And one of the reasons they did that is because kids getting dropped off from the bus and having to cross that intersection. A lot of residents were concerned about that. There was Noel talked about a place where there were dumpsters in a dark corner that kind of attracted drug dealers to hang out there and peddle their wares. And so they got KCDC to come in and put in better lighting, clean up the areas around the dumpsters, put in brighter lighting, and which basically made it a less attractive place to do business when you're dealing drugs. So,
well, and it's interesting because a lot of these things are, as you say, they're not necessarily new ideas. Like, we're probably 30 years into people talking about community policing. You can go back to sort of Rudy Giuliani's broken windows approach in New York City and so forth. The use of data has been growing in police departments across the country as better data has become available. And of course, now they have all the sophisticated mapping that they can do. But this is, it seems like a lot of these are sort of continued refinements of an approach that tries to, as you say, on the one hand, specifically target people who they think are most likely to be involved in criminal activity, but also think more broadly about the communities where these things are happening and what are the kind of environmental and other factors there that might make a difference.
Yeah, and when you of course they will talk about, okay, you target the people who are doing crimes. If they go away or seldom go through these high crime areas anymore, the residents feel safer. And you're engaging the police and city and other city workers are engaging with the residents, and they feel more comfortable and feel safer talking to the police than they did before. And it's kind of they talk about it being community building. That was Middlebrook talks about that quite a bit. That this whole approach, it builds community, and and you're right. I mean none of this is completely new. One thing is that Knoxville's doing, and other cities are doing this too, is there would be one approach that they would take. Community policing, for instance. Community policing was one thing that was by itself is fine, but here it's a part of a broader approach, and as is the use of data, as is the regular policing, patrolling and arresting people and things like that. It's probably the biggest difference is that it's everything all at once.
Right, trying to integrate things.
Yeah, there are other elements that are going into it as well. We've talked about violence interruption. That's still going on, still doing well. One of the things is that there's less violence for the interrupters to interrupt. And so one of the things that they're doing, and they have a life coach component to this. Now, one violence interrupters they do is they look at those people who are at risk of being involved in gun violence. Those 25 to 32-year-old males who might have had a couple of run-ins with the law. They know them because these are people from the city who do this, and they know these people. They talk to these people, and one of the things services they have is they're life coaches. And while it often takes a long time to convince somebody to do that, they with the lower crime rate, they're emphasizing the life coaching more. And there are like 18 people who are going through the life coaching process right now, and so there's a lot to it. It's, like I said, it's very comprehensive and holistic, and that's I think that and the first people to say this are the mayor and the chief, is that they don't take credit for all of the reduction. They know that they know as well as anybody who can read that crime is down all over the country, but they also know that that's part of it, and that is they're going to be adding TLC zones. There are 4 in the city now. They're going to, Noel said he'd like to add a couple more. He wants to have basically 2 in each of the patrol districts. They have 3 patrol districts. He'd like to have 2 in each one. And they also know that all it takes is one mentally disturbed person with access to a high capacity weapon to destroy all of those stats. It sounds
right, especially a city like Knoxville, where the absolute numbers are relatively low. Like a really bad year for homicides in Knoxville is 35 or 40, and a really good year is 12 or 15.
Yeah.
So it's not right. Like you could just have a bad weekend, and suddenly you kind of go from having what looks like a good year turns into what looks like a bad year.
Right.
That's just the reality.
One of the things that, and this goes back to the targeting bad guys approach of that portion of this, is that Knoxville is on the Detroit I-75 drug pipeline. Every city between Detroit and Florida is part of this pipeline, and what it is drug dealers from Detroit come down south on I-75 and stop at Knoxville and other cities on the way, Atlanta and distribute drugs, and they get guns down here because they're easier to buy in the south than they are in the north, and take the guns back up. Noel said that they're making big strides in disrupting that pipeline. There's a federal task force that is working on that pipeline.
And you see people not infrequently arrested in Knoxville from Detroit.
Oh yeah. In fact, I mentioned the homicides earlier this year that had the one that was an accident, one that was a domestic one. The third one involved people from Michigan.
Yeah.
So it's it's the people who engage in that Detroit pipeline are pretty dangerous people, and
with a lot of money at stake.
With a lot of money at stake,
yep.
and a lot of money and a lot of years in prison
at
stake. So anyway, that's kind of a bit of good news that the homicide rate is as low as it is, and it's interesting that just to take a look at why that is locally, and move on to the real crime is what's going on in college athletics right now. That's as anybody who has paid any attention to sports at all knows, the college sports is kind of in chaos now, has been for the last couple of years, and it seems like it gets worse all the time. They had ever since there was a court decision that allowed athletes to take advantage of their name, image, and likeness, which is basically do commercials. In theory, that was what it was going to be. Then you had all these collectives that popped up that nobody had ever envisioned happening before, and more money came in, completely unregulated. The NCAA could not regulate it. Now there's another settlement where colleges and universities can pay athletes directly. They call it revenue sharing. They don't want to call it paying necessarily, because that implies that they're employees, and they don't want that.
Because if they're employees, they can unionize.
Yes,
and they definitely don't want that.
And so well, there are all kinds of things that employees employers can't do with employees that they do in athletics. But that the NCAA is completely unable to regulate that. Used to an athlete could transfer once in their careers, and if they did transfer, they had to sit out a year before they could play. Now you can transfer as often as you want. You never have to sit out. There are people who are playing for their fourth schools now.
Right, everybody's gotten used to this annual thing of the portal. We didn't used to have the portal.
There was no portal.
Yeah,
back in our day, there was no portal.
Back in our day, like 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Yeah.
All these things are going on. The conferences are merging. The SEC has grown quite a bit. Now it has 16 teams. When just a few years ago had 10, and there's all this turmoil going on,
right? And that is leading to. I mean, there was always imbalance between the different conferences, but now you're really getting to sort of like the super conferences with the SEC and the Big Ten, and then sort of like everybody else is increasingly becoming more and more marginal.
Yeah, and and you talk about the SEC. The SEC and the Big Ten are the two most powerful conferences. They generate the most revenue. They generate the largest TV audiences.
They generate most of the national champions.
Yes, and so there's but when you a lot of this boils down to the money, and there's money is at a lot of this too, because the SEC and the Big Ten in college football, unlike the NFL or Major League Baseball or anything else, the individual conferences negotiate their TV contracts, and so the SEC has a deal with ESPN. The Big Ten has a deal with Fox, I believe, and the ACC has its deal. The Big 12 has its deal. The SECs and the Big Tens are the big deals, and they don't want to share with others. Although the other conferences think that they could pool all their resources. Anyway, all this stuff's going on. It's very chaotic. Nobody's following the rules. The NCAA can't enforce them for whatever reason. Judges, everybody's going to court to get things done in defiance of the NCAA. One just last week, the quarterback at Texas Tech, who transferred to Texas Tech is his third school. But while he was at Indiana, bet on Indiana games, which is the cardinal sin of athletics. You never, ever, ever bet on your own team. There is every single sports organization. If you gamble on your own team, you are banned for life from that. Pete Rose, for example, it's that way everywhere. And so he was banned, and then he went to court, and a judge said, no, that's wrong. We'll reinstate you. And so now apparently you can bet on your own team and still play. And so,
well, I mean, I think one thing that's happening here is that this whole arena, if we can call it that, has been characterized by, like, it grew up over time to meet certain needs, and then of course more and more money came into it, and like a lot of it doesn't really make sense, and so when you take these long-standing arrangements and agreements, and players can do this but coaches can do that, and all of these, and a school can or can't limit somebody's opportunities, when you take those out of the realm where they were developed and put them into a courtroom and put it in front of a judge and say, make sense of this, like, who knows what, like, a lot of these things don't actually make a lot of sense. It's just sort of, the compromises that were made over time. And when you start subjecting those to judicial oversight, you're going to get a lot of judges saying, well, none of what you guys are doing actually, makes any sense.
Yeah. Anyway, because of this, there have been a lot of people who've been clutching at pearls over this, for the last couple of years. And so Congress is going to save college sports now.
They're from the government and they're here to help.
They're here to help. Yeah.
Did I just hear Jesse do a Reagan quote?
In the Senate, there's a bill that's been put forward called the Protect College Sports Act. Ted Cruz of Texas and Maria Cantwell is a Democrat from
bipartisan bill.
It is a bipartisan bill. It is aiming to kind of put some structure and restore some semblance of sanity to what's going on in college sports right now. But and this is a really long way of getting to UT Chancellor Donde Plowman and her role in this. As said earlier, the SEC and the Big Ten are they're the big dogs, and they both came out with statements a couple of weeks ago. They had a joint statement that said, as this is written now, we are dead set against it. It is not in our interest.
Because it has some of these elements of revenue sharing and other things that would be a net loss for the schools.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the things is the revenue sharing among or pooling of TV revenues is one thing. There's some other things. They want safeguards for their conference. They want rules in place that benefit their conference. So, but it was really, they really came out and were very forceful about their opposition to it. Then there was this last week. There was a video call with Cruz and Cantwell and representatives of the NCAA and representatives of the schools. The NCAA probably wasn't involved because they've disappeared. And after that was over, Plowman spoke for the SEC,
right? Because she's the chair.
She's the president and chancellor's chair. There's an organization, presidents and chancellors of the SEC. Typically, when things like this happen, the commissioner, Greg Sankey of the SEC, is the one who speaks. But Plowman was the selected to speak, and it was kind of interesting. She basically, the SEC's position has not changed. She said it much nicely, much nicer than that the previous statement was. Said, said all the right things about, constructive dialogue. We're working together. We look forward to more dialogue, but these same sticking points were the sticking points. So it's kind of like the iron fist and a velvet glove kind of thing. She was, but it was kind of interesting that Plowman emerged as the voice of the SEC when the commissioner has always been the voice of the conference. And I don't know, I'm assuming that the reason they're doing that is to reinforce that this is this isn't just the coaches who don't like it.
Right.
This is the university. She
has maybe more credibility as a voice of institutions of higher learning, which these still are in addition to their sports programs, than the head of the SEC, who, more or less just comes across as somebody protecting their kind of corporate entity.
Yeah. And it's a reminder to the senators who at this point it's just in the Senate, the bill, that, most of these institutions are state institutions, and so there's we're your constituents as well. I mean, in the SEC, the University of Texas and Texas A&M University, two largest public universities in Texas, the most most politically powerful alumni groups in the state of Texas. They're in the SEC now.
Yeah.
And so,
I'm sure Ted Cruz knows all of them real well.
Ted Cruz is very much aware of that. Anyway, it'll be interesting to see how much, if this was just kind of a one-off deal for Plowman, or she's going to take a more visible role in all this as it works its way out. I mean, one of the things that one of the pillars that she talks about for future success at UT is having a great athletic program.
Yeah,
presidents have kind of treated it that way in the past, or not presidents, but chancellors have. But they don't say it out loud, but she does. She embraces it. And
it's just unquestionable. I mean, this has been shown over and over and over again that schools that have successful, especially football and basketball programs, those are the two obviously that get the most attention. Yes, they do draw more student athletes to come there, but they also draw more students in general because you get coverage, you get attention. People start cheering for you when they're kids, and then by the time they're applying to college, that's where they want to go. I mean, I went to Penn State, so I'm very familiar with this phenomenon.
Well, as you were saying at the beginning of the show, from your time and being a New Yorker, you're it's exciting when the Knicks are doing well to you, and that's not different in college athletics either.
Yeah.
You want to be in the neighborhood when that team is winning, whether you're a fan of that team or not.
Yeah, no. One of my roommates in college, super smart guy. He was not a student athlete in college. He'd been a high school athlete, but I remember him saying, "Oh, I absolutely would not have gone to anything but a top tier Division I school." He wanted to be at a place where he could experience that environment, and so I think Plowman is absolutely right that people may or may not like that reality, but it is a reality that a successful sports program does actually benefit the broader university.
Yeah, I would be really interesting to see what the application and enrollment numbers are at Indiana University.
Right.
Because Indiana University, well, of course, it's always been a big basketball school, but they were the worst. They had the worst record, historic record of any Division I school until 2 years ago.
Yep.
And then they won the national championship last year. So that sudden reversal of fortune will kind of be interesting to see what their enrollment figures are. Maybe we'll look that up for next week's.
Yeah.
So anyway, we also had an appeal that of area residents in the Norwood area, who opposed CareCuts and we've talked about CareCuts before. CareCuts has got a new location. They're a nonprofit that provides services to people who are homeless. They do. It started out with just haircuts. Now they do a lot of other things. The transportation, job, job search help, things like that. Anyway, they new location on Clinton Highway. The neighbors up there have been fighting it tooth and nail. They've been to Planning Commission once, the Board of Zoning Appeals once, and City Council twice now. So just in the past few months. But they were given either by the Planning Commission and City Council a special use so they could operate there. One of the things that came out of this is a lot of these services that they provide for their clients, if they provide them for the general public, they could have just opened their doors and started. But because that they are providing these services to people who are homeless, they have to get a special permission, special use to do that. But they did, they got it. But during while all that was going on, they also wanted to be classified as a religious organization, because there's an exemption for religious organizations to that requirement. They can do whatever they want, essentially, as far as the use of the building, and they're not bound by the zoning code the way that other organizations are. So they asked the codes administrator of the city, Peter Ahrens, if to declare them that way. He did. The neighbors down there in the Norwood area appealed to the Board of Zoning Appeals. They upheld it. Then they appealed to City Council. City Council heard it last week. It's kind of interesting. They're doing this. They can already do what they want to do, but it does give them, if they want to do anything else,
right? They don't have to come back and get another special use permit,
right?
Yeah.
And now this only applies to this location. If they open up another location somewhere else, it doesn't necessarily apply there. But I mean, obviously the precedent makes it a lot easier to get that determination. But for this one, if they want to add services, it'd be much easier for them to do than not. But they had already they were basically going on those two different tracks because they didn't know how they were going to fall out. If they had been denied the special use, then if they came back and were determined they were a religious organization, that was a way to get around that. So
right, belt and suspenders.
And yes, it is belt and suspenders, and and it was the residents there. I mean, it sounds like maybe they're a little cold-hearted or whatever. They have reported a lot of activities with homeless people who are homeless in the area, doing things like sleeping in
right. But those people are already there.
They're already there.
A major reason, I think, that
yes.
CareCuts, because Clinton Highway, if you just kind of thought of it in general, you might not think it's a logical, like most of our homeless services are based in and around downtown. Mm-hmm. And so you might think, well, is Clinton Highway even close enough to anybody to provide services? But the answer is yes, because the whole Merchant Drive corridor has for several years now been a major center of homeless encampments, and there's definitely a population you can see there if you just drive through. And so, I understand people in the area having noticed that and maybe being distressed about it, but it's not that CareCuts is bringing them there. It's that CareCuts is going to where people already are to provide services. But
one of the things though that they argument that they tried to make is that CareCuts, when they registered with the state, they're a nonprofit organization. They registered with the state, did not check the religious box. So they didn't register with the state as a religious organization. The residents kind of clung to that. Well, they're not claiming to be a religious organization, or they didn't then, and they're only doing it now because it's convenient for them. Interestingly enough, a lot of the discussion at council when they were having their hearing on this ended up turning to the Hobby Lobby case, where that company is a private company, for-profit company, but basically the ruling was the people who ran the company had strong religious beliefs, and they could follow them.
Right. They didn't want to pay for birth control for their employees,
right.
I think was the issue.
And so since CareCuts leadership is religious, and they claim to be religious. I mean, when they, it's basically on the form that they filled out with the state where they didn't check it, and so that was kind of the prevailing, or one of the prevailing thoughts, is that this organization obviously is a religious organization, even if they're not stated as such on their application to the state to be a nonprofit. So anyway, doesn't really change a whole lot. Like you said, belt and suspenders, but it does, kind of set the stage for organizations that want to go in other areas of the city, or same area, just a different organization. If they're a religious organization, then it makes it easier for them to set up shop and set up their operations. One last sports-related thing, and it's the last thing we'll talk about from last week as well, is the at Covenant Health Park. They've had two restaurants that opened just in the last week or so. The one thing that about the ballpark is the exterior along Jackson Avenue is opens to the street. It's not interior facing, it's exterior facing. And so the restaurants that are going to be there you enter them from Jackson Avenue. You don't go into the stadium. In fact, there are no entrances from the stadium into these restaurants. One of them is Jackie's Dream, which is a very popular restaurant. Fried chicken, hot chicken, and it is Jackie Griffin is the owner. Very outgoing and very popular woman in town, and
she had been up in her first location was in East Knoxville, but then she had been up in our neighborhood in North Knoxville there on Woodland for the last several years, and now she's gone back downtown.
Yeah, I could just about see it from my house.
Yeah,
and now she's back down in the old city. That there's another restaurant opened there just before she did. That's Iron Forge Brewing Company. It's called Iron Forge Park. They're based in Sevierville. This is their second location. It's a they make their own beer. They it's a restaurant. There's a lot of comfort food, a lot of burgers and chicken pot pie, all kinds of things like that. So they've both opened, and like I said, these face the street. They're open regular hours, and they are not dependent on the games. So you could go down anytime that they're open for if it's lunchtime. now you can go to Jackie's Dream and get lunch. You don't have to wait till the ball game is going on. In fact, they're going to be open. I mean, not 24/7, but not even 7 days a week. Because I think Iron Forge at least is closed on Mondays. But they're regular hours, regular restaurant, and it's kind of a test case for this development around the stadium because
extending the commercial district eastward from the old city, essentially.
Yeah, and of course we had the one. There's a sports bar that's going to be built just outside the stadium, not part of the stadium. The right foul line extended from the stadium up there off of Willow, and so there's that. There are other buildings across Jackson Avenue that Boyd has Randy Boyd, the owner of the Knoxville Smokies, and which manages Covenant Hill Park. They've got buildings there that they're going to. They've said all along they plan to renovate them and make them into commercial buildings as well as technically part of the stadium complex. And but this is a kind of a test thing. Okay, will people go down there and go out for dinner, go out for drinks, whatever, at these locations that are real close by to the old city, but the overpass there kind of
right. You got to go under the highway.
You got to go under the highway, and they've tried to make that more inviting, but it's still going under an overpass.
Yeah.
It's not. But anyway, Jackie's Dream and Iron Forge at the park are open, and of course, I'm sure they will do better on game days than others, but they're open all the time. So if people want to check them out, they can do that anytime. You don't have to consult the Smoky schedule or One Knoxville SC schedule. So anyway, that's all we got for this week.
Or maybe you do want to check those schedules so you don't have to deal with that crowd because you
that's true.
Want the food.
Yeah.
The inverse version of the schedule.
Yes. That's all that we're going to talk about from last week. More happened, but we can't get to everything. We do cover a lot more than that at Compass. As I said, you can go to CompassKnox.com and subscribe there, and then you can access the website. You'll get our daily newsletter, and we'll know what's going on in Knoxville and Knox County. This week, the big thing that's going to happen is on Monday, the county commission is holding a budget hearing, the second one of the season, and right after the budget hearing is over, the budget hearing starts at 3 p.m. in the main assembly room of the city county building. Right after it's over, they're going to hold a special meeting to vote on the $1.16 billion budget that County Mayor Glenn Jacob has proposed, his last budget, because he's term limited, and that will be the big meeting of the week that we'll be covering. But there will be other news that we'll cover as well, and we'll talk about all of that next week. For now, this is we'll kind of wrap it up. I want to thank Lord Seth Barber for his work. Will Wright for providing music for us, and Jesse, as always, it's been a pleasure.
Happy to be here.
Great. You have a great weekend.
Good.
And of course, by the time you hear this, you will have had your weekend by the time this goes public, and I will too. So anyway, thanks for listening out there, folks, and we will be back next week with another installment of Compass Points.
CompassKnox.com is your best source for news and politics in Knoxville and Knox County. If you'd like to learn more about the topics discussed on today's podcast, go to CompassKnox.com and subscribe for in-depth coverage and much more. And many thanks to William Wright for composing our theme song. Compass Points is a partnership of Barking Shark Media and Barbarian Productions, and recorded by Lord Seth A. Barber at Barbarian Studios, Knoxville, Tennessee.